Right, I figured we'd have like a discussion time I've been asked this question a whole bunch in fact, got asked it today from MRT, who actually runs the shop, wanted to try to figure out how to build their business. So I will tell you all what I have done over the years. Hopefully I don't leave anything out. I'm just kind of winging this. But I'll tell you all what I've kind of done over the years, and I'm going to say your results will probably vary. But things that I have done over the years, because I'm just again, I'm a self-taught stringer. I string out of my house. I'm fairly busy most of the time. Summers always are kind of dead, and December is always dead. The rest of the year, January through April, I do about 200 a month. In September, October, November, I do about 200 a month. Well, September I do about 400 a month. So I kind of tell you all my progression through stringing and how I've gotten to where I'm at. But again, your results are probably going to vary. And I also assume, and I probably shouldn't, that if you're watching my videos, you're that type of person like me. I go online every week and I look up everybody's videos that are, every week I'll do, I'll sort them. But I'll do tennis stringing, racket stringing, tennis machines, stuff like that, and I sort everything that was put out for that week. And I sit there and I watch them and just kind of look at them. Sometimes they'll ask for comments, I'll make comments. Most times I don't. So, Patrick over at the YouTube channel Racket Stringing Tips, I've done a couple of interviews with him, kind of talking about this stuff a little bit too, how I got started, what I've done over the years. But anyway, I just thought I'd give a little video because I do get this question a lot. But before I do anything, I'm going to turn the fan on because it is hot in here. And I can't actually see my camera, so I'm kind of watching it in the reflection in the computer screen in the back to make sure I'm actually centered. So, years ago, my daughter was playing tennis, and that's how I got into stringing rackets. Because, we'd take it to the pro shop. We have an actual tennis specialty store here where I live. And I'll tell you all competition-wise. So, there is a country club. There used to be two that had stringers. One of them passed away, so now there's just one. But there is a country club that strings, and that's where most of their members go. There is a city-run tennis center across town. They string, kind of, sort of, but they string rackets. And then when I first started, there were only maybe 2 of the high schools that had stringing machines. And I was actually stringing for the rest of the high schools, most of the players. Not all the players, but most of the players I was stringing for them. And since then, over time, I believe all of them, except for one, has a stringing machine now. Somebody's either donated it to them or they've gotten it from the Booster Club or whatever. So I've lost a lot of the high school players. That's okay. I still get a lot of them. Over the years, I've kind of maintained the top probably 2% of the high school players, the ones that'll probably go to college and whatnot, over course of their little tennis careers before they get out of high school, most of them gravitate towards me to string their rackets. That's typically through word of mouth. But anyway, so it started with my daughter, and I'm trying to gather thoughts here to see how to put all this. But that's where it started out. I was stringing for her, started stringing for her friends, started stringing people on her team at the high school, or actually in the middle school, then in the high school. I started because, and again, I have a real job. So I don't use this money to help support me or fund me or anything like that. I mean, I waste almost everything I make. I either donate to charity, I buy scotch that I really don't drink very much of, use it to take trips, just whatever, waste it. I keep buying stringing machines, doing video reviews, and then selling them, stuff like that. Okay, so that's how I started. I would say if you're going to try to do this and try to make some money at it, you really have to be involved in your tennis community, because we were really involved. When our daughter was playing, we were really involved. We went all the tournaments. Anything that happened here in Lubbock, we were there. So I kind of got lucky in that I've always been fairly personable, and I would talk to people, but we'd go do tournaments, and I had a little drop weight machine I would take with me, and we'd go to tournaments around or even out of town. We'd go to tournaments. I'd take a little bit of string with me. If somebody needed a racket strung, there wasn't anybody there to string it, hey, I can string your racket for you. So locally, I picked up a lot of people that way. They found it fascinating. Hey, my kid just broke a string, and if I found out about it there at the courts, I'd say, hey, I can do it for you. I can have it back to you in about 15, 20 minutes. Man, I'd knock it out, give it back to them. They're ready for their next match. So they all thought that was pretty exciting stuff. But that's kind of where I started. So the way I've built business over time, and the way you could probably build business, I don't know. It just depends on how involved you are in your community. I would go to courts. I had business cards. I still got business cards. I'd go to courts. I'd give them out to players I'd see out on the courts. I'd pick up maybe, let's say, 10% of the people I would approach out in public. Maybe 10% of them I would pick up. Years and years ago, I even advertised on Craigslist, and I think out of Craigslist, I picked up maybe 3 people ever. So I just quit doing that. All of the top players, again, because I was stringing for my daughter, because she was one of the top players in town, because I was stringing for her, a lot of the other top players would gravitate towards me, because we'd go to her coaches. We'd go to her lessons and whatnot, and I'd pick up the players that were there before her, the players that came in after her. We'd talk to them about string and rackets and tensions, and well, who's doing yours? Well, I do hers, and and then kind of lead to that, and that's how I picked up a lot of them. And just over time, they all kind of communicate with each other. All the top players know each other, and they all talk. I even picked up top players from up to, I guess, 120 miles away radius. They had to start bringing their rackets to me. Not all of them, but several of them did. So I did that, and then I started approaching a lot of the private coaches in town, even the high school coaches to a degree, but a lot of the private, even middle school coaches. Don't forget your middle schools. They don't do very much. You get very little middle school activity. But I would go to the private coaches that were coaching some of the clubs that didn't have machines, or just private people that just out in town that are just teaching tennis. And I would go to them and I'd offer them, say, hey, I will string your rackets for free. In return, you refer all your students to me for stringing. And it started out 1 or 2 coaches would take me up on it, and then 3, 4, 4, 5. And it kind of snowballed. Now I've got, I don't even know anymore. I've got 1, 3, 4, 6, probably 8. No, probably 9, 8 or 9 that I string their rackets for free. And when I say for free, there's a couple of them that I do racket and string for free. I've known them the longest. They've sent me the most people, so I don't charge them anything. The rest of them, they just pay me my cost for string, and I'll string them for free. And I even have a couple of them that they just come to my house and they string their own rackets and pay me my cost for the string. And I even have one that I trained, because he had 45 kids, and I was really too busy with other stuff, but I was too busy to do all of his kids that he was sending to me. So I taught him how to string so that he could string his own kids. But he comes to my house and he strings on my machine. He's here today, in fact. So anyway, but I'd approach all these coaches, hey, I'll string you for free. And again, some of them I'll do string and everything, but most of them is just say, I'll string it for free. You just pay me my cost for the string, and you refer your students to me. And if you have, say, the average coach, I don't know what the average coach has, probably 25 students. I know some of them I know right now one of them used to have about 45, and now he's down to about 7 or 8 because he ended up getting another job. But most of them I'd say have 25 or so. Oh, in private schools. Talk to the coaches at the private schools, because most of them, they don't have a way to string rackets. And I've picked up several of the private, I do that, private school coaches. I'll string them for free, and they refer their students to me. And I pick up a lot of those from January to April. But a lot of the private coaches, again, they'll start referring their people to me, and they've all got, like I said, probably 25 to 40 students that they string for, yeah, roughly. And so they refer their kids to me. And the way I've always thought about it, if I could give away one free stringing, 20 minutes of my time to pick up potentially 40 potential clients for a year. I mean, that to me, that was a pretty good trade-off. I mean, $800 return to profit for 20 minutes of my time. I thought that was a pretty good deal. So that's what I do, and I still do that. I still do all the coaches for free if they want me to, and in turn, they give me their students. Now, some of them, I will get all of their students. Some of them I just get some of their students, because again, their other students will go to the tennis outlet here, or the tennis store, or the tennis center, or wherever. A lot of them, they are in high school, and they just get them done by the high school coach. But approach your coaches, your middle school coaches, your high school coaches, your private school coaches. Most likely there is a homeschool tennis team where you live at, maybe not, depending on the size of your town, but there is a homeschool team here in our town. We've approached them before, and I've picked up a couple of them, not very many, but I've picked up a couple of them. And remember, every time you string for somebody, especially if you can be flexible and string for them last minute. Like I've had people call me up on a Saturday in the middle of a tournament and say, hey, is there any way you can string for my kid, because he just broke a string and he has to play again in an hour. Oh yeah, get that racket over here, I'll knock it out for him. I've just picked, I've got that person, I've just picked up all their friends, because they're going to tell all their friends, oh man, you need a racket, and you need to go to this guy. So I get a lot of stuff that way. I got lucky several years ago, because again, I'm involved in the community. We always go to the university matches and everything. We always knew all the coaches and everything, and they knew I strung rackets. But before I actually strung for the university, one of the ladies, her daughter was just one of the top players. She was probably the top player in town there for a while. The lady played WTA, I don't know for how long, during the 80s, early 90s. She got up into the top, I think she was top 17, singles and doubles. But she was, for a long time, was taking her daughter to the city place here in town. And when her daughter was going to get to sign to play for the university, she started coming to me. But even before that, she knew I strung, because our daughter was taking from her old college coach from a long time ago. And anyway, so she asked me if I would be interested in stringing the NCAA championships, which are being held here at our university, the first 2 rounds. So I did that. And once you get something like that in your credentials of, a big tournament, or, around here, I mean, you do anything for the university, everybody thinks, oh, that's the greatest thing ever. So that kind of went a long way, because, people saw me there. They'd come in, go watch the matches and everything. They'd see me there stringing, and, oh, hey, you're stringing. So, but anyway, but the university, every university is different. Some of them pay work-study hours. Some of them just have a stringer that the students have to use. Some of them contract with somebody from the outside, like myself. They're all different. I know there's some of them that give a scholarship to the stringers. So every school's different. Our school, they contract with somebody from the outside, because they used to have a machine, but they quit. They couldn't keep up with it. We have a men's and a women's teams. Like I said, I'll do 150 or so rackets. There'll be nights I won't get anything, but then there'll be nights I'll get 25. And so anyway, the coaches here, they asked me if I thought I could string for them, so I started stringing for the university, and that's been great. But I gave them a heavily discounted rate. And again, I've got a real job, so I don't need this money to survive on. So I gave them a discounted rate, and in turn for that discounted rate, I got to do everything that they host. So anytime they did an NCAA, which they've hosted several times in the past, if they hosted an NCAA, an ITA, and there's also a pro tournament that comes to town, a men's and women's pro tournament. So that is actually held at the university, and because of that, I get to string that as well. So I get to do all that. Any visiting teams, there's nobody comes here to visit during the fall, September to December. That might change in the future because they're trying to build some indoor courts, so and they have been revamping their courts right now so that they can try to host some of that stuff. But right now they don't. But from January to April, there'll be 22 to 24 teams that come to visit, and I make an average of, I don't know, probably $100 a team, because some teams I won't get any rackets from, and some teams I'll get 20, 25. I think this year my record was 27 from one team, 26 from one team. Anyway, so I picked those up. Even if you're in a college town, even if you talk to the university coaches and they say, no, we do this, you can still, when they put their schedule out every year, look up their schedule and everybody they're going to play at home, and reach out to those people about a week, probably about 3 to 4 days before a team comes to town to play. I will send an email to the head coach and the assistant coach, tell them who I am, what machine I use, what my experience is, what my fees are, and I pick up everything and drop off everything to them. And I have been told over the years numerous times by several coaches that one of the hardest things that they deal with when they're on the road to travel is they struggle finding good stringing when they're on the road. Because even though they're going to another university, that university may have their own stringer, but that stringer may not string for the visiting teams. They just, hey, you have to go try to call these people or whatever. I mean, I don't know how they all do it. Here, I send them an email. They come in, they say, man, great, glad you sent me an email. There's a lot of coaches that come here all the time, the conference coaches. Every one of them just got my name and phone number in their phones now. They've been here so many times, and I've been stringing for them for so many years. So they all know me by name, and during the pro tournament, they all bring players up here, and so anyway, they all know who I am. But that is a good way to pick up a lot of rackets in a short period of time throughout the spring. Is just reach out to all those visiting teams and tell them, hey, this is me, this is my machine, this is what I charge. But you got to be semi-flexible, because sometimes they'll bring you the rackets, but I try to make it easy on them. And if they call me and say, hey, we've got some rackets up here at the courts, I will go to the courts and I will pick up the rackets. I will string them, and I will meet them the following day when they show up for their practice. I have met them at hotels. I have met them at restaurants, meet them at the courts most of the time. But you just kind of got to be flexible and be to where you can go pick them up. Even if you have a solid job and can't get off, you can still set up, okay, I will meet you at your hotel at such and such time. And you can go pick their rackets up, string them, and then agree to pick them, drop them off either later that night, early in the morning, or whenever. But you can figure all that out. But that's a good way to pick up a lot of rackets. And again, I average probably 5 rackets per team. But again, that is because a lot of these smaller schools I don't get anything from, or I'll just get 1 or 2 maybe. But a lot of the big schools, I get 15 to 25 pretty routinely. So that's a good way to pick up some good business and make a lot of money. And you charge what you want to charge. Again, I've read for years on all these forums and Facebook and everything, you got all these people out there that'll say they won't even touch a racket for less than $20 or 25. But that's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Me, I'm not like that. I will touch a racket for free with the intent that it will build me money in the future. It's like an investment, okay? I'm investing. I'm investing 20 minutes of my time to make so much profit in the future. And you string for a coach for free, and most of the coaches, I'm going to throw this out there, most of the coaches that I string for free, it's not like they're stringing every day, every week, every month. I might do 1 or 2 rackets a year for them. So it's not like I'm giving them thousands of dollars worth of free string. I'm giving them 1 or 2 rackets a year, if that. Probably I'd say they average 1 a year. A couple of them average 2 a year. That's a good way to build some business that way. I know I've watched some other videos online that talk about how to build you a stringing business, but I've watched all of them and none of them ever actually told you how to build a stringing business. Something else I do is me and the wife, we belong to one of the tennis clubs. You don't have to be part of a club. You can be in a league, you can be whatever. But I go to these tennis clubs and I hit and I watch everybody. And as they're hitting, I make recommendations to them. And I have 2 rackets. I have 2 Yonex V-Cores. Up to yesterday, they were strung differently. They had different strings, same tension, but different strings. And the reason for that, I could be at a clinic and I could watch somebody hit, especially the new people, because new people don't know anything. They always show up with your little Academy or Walmart rackets and get out there and they don't know how to play. But even some of the guys that have been playing for a long time out there, they'll get out there and they don't know anything about string, they don't know anything about tension, they don't know anything about anything. So we'll get out there and I noticed like today there's a guy out there who's trying out a new racket. And it had synthetic gut in it. Who knows what tension, who knows how long it had been in there, because none of the strings were straight. I mean, they're all over the place. And I was talking to him about it, and he's like, yeah, it just feels so different from the other racket. Like, yeah, I mean, your other racket, look at it, and I straight string, the string like this one. I mean, completely different. You're comparing apples to oranges that way. So what I'll do, I have my 2 rackets, and hit with this racket, and then they can go out there and they hit with a poly at this, blah, blah, blah. Or, okay, now hit with this racket for a little bit, and they can hit with a multi-filament, or it's whatever I have at the time. I kind of mixed it up there for a while, but I'll do a round poly and then a shape poly sometimes. Like I'll have RPM and then Hyper G in the rackets. But anyway, I let them go out there and try different rackets, and they can tell a difference in the string, because they'll hit with their racket, then hit with this racket, then hit with my other racket, and they can tell the difference. And I pick a lot of business up that way, because I'm actually having a conversation with them. And because most of them stringers, and I brought this up today, I had 3 or 4 of them approach me as they heard me talking to the guys about, string and tension does this, and higher tension, lower tension, and I didn't even know they made a thinner string. And I was like, well, what do you have in your racket? I don't know, my stringer just put it in there. So I told them today, and these are conversations y'all need to have with your stringer. If you're not, find a new stringer. Because as soon as a person comes to me, how old are you? How long have you been playing? Have you ever had any problems? Do you hit topspin? Do you hit flat? I ask them that stuff. What level do you play? I try to gauge how they're playing from what their answers they tell me, and go with what string, what tension I think they should use. And I will tell you, I string everybody lower than most of them think that they should be strung. I have people come to me wanting me to string it, 60 pounds, and I go, well, let me try this, and I'll string them down to about 48, 50, somewhere in there. And they love it, because they never knew. So anyway, but I have that conversation a lot, and this past week, I've picked up probably 7 or 8 new rackets from people who, just from that, being on the court playing with them, and say, you're hitting a flat ball, or you're hitting a lot of topspin, but you're using this string and you're hitting everything long, or you're hitting everything in the net, or you have no control. And I'll talk to them about rackets and string and tension and all that good stuff, and I tell them, well, hey, let me take your racket and let me try something with you. And here's another thing I do a lot. If I approach somebody like that and say, hey, let me take your racket, let me put a different string in you. I've been watching you play for a few weeks. Let me put a different string and different tension, do everything. I'm going to give that to you and you play with it. If you don't like it, I will return the racket to you the way it was. But if you do like it, you keep that string and then you pay me. And I have only once ever had a person tell me they preferred it the other way. So that's a way to make a little bit of money doing this and picking up customers. But again, you got to be on the court. You got to be playing with them. You got to be watching them. I used to go to, if I was stringing for some of the high school kids and there was a match here in town, I would go to the matches and kind of watch them. And, people kind of know who I am. Hey, what are you doing up here? And I'll tell them, hey, I'm here watching this kid play because I string their racket, and I'm just making sure that we've got the right string and the right tension for their game. And I'll have people start coming up to me, oh, hey, can you watch my kid? Can you watch my kid? Can you watch my kid? And what do I tell them? Well, you need to have your stringer doing this. Said, well, my stringer won't come out and watch. My stringer's here, my stringer's there. Like, well, if I was your stringer, I'd be out here watching your kid. But I'm not. So I'm not going to watch your kid and give you advice to go home and give to your stringer. Your stringer needs to be out here watching because they probably have different string than I have. So anyway, I do things like that. I don't know if this video is helpful for anybody at all. Maybe it is. But those are things that I have done over the years. I know there's other things I've done too. I've done a lot of charity stuff. I've had people contact me in the past where I would give them free stringing certificates that they could give in like free raffles and stuff. We've had some tournaments, or my wife has hosted some tournaments here in town that they have a little wheel that they can spin and have a free stringing on it, and just things like that. Again, I'm not doing this for a living. I've been saying a lot. I don't know why. I try not to say it, but I'm saying a lot. So I do that, but years ago, my daughter played some schools, and our kids would all show up and they had their uniforms and their tennis bags and their tennis shoes and they had their $200 rackets and they're out there playing and everything, and the kids that showed up to play against were wearing khaki pants and flip-flops and just whatever shirt they had on, and their rackets were all from Walmart, and that I felt bad, and so I used to take my machine out, my little drop weight. Sometimes, after I figured all this out, and if they were playing those, I'd go out there and say, hey, I can restring your racket for you, and I do all that stuff for free. But sometimes that goes a long way. Sometimes that goes nowhere. But it made me feel better just doing it. Because, a lot of these kids just didn't have the opportunities that some of the others had. And you could tell that they were excited to have a good string and their racket at a better tension. And as soon as they'd hit balls with it, their eyes light up and they're just like, oh my God, this is great. So they just made me feel good. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I did a lot of that stuff. But my wife runs a charity, and I have no idea how many rackets for free where we've helped close out pro shops before, or people just donate old rackets to me. I've gotten them from the university before. I've gotten them, pretty much anywhere, because people just know I'm into tennis, so they just bring me all their old stuff. But, dozens and dozens and dozens of rackets that I've taken that I've restrung, put new grips on, over grips, clean them up, make them look pretty, that we've donated or she's donated to other programs, private schools, homeschool kids, under deserving or under whatever you want to call them kids. Like right now she's doing wheelchair tennis, so I've done, probably 20 rackets or so for her wheelchair players. Where, most of them, we just started the program, they didn't have rackets, so we just strung up, we had several people donate. That's where I got a bunch of them. The university gave me a bunch of old rackets. And there's a few other people gave me some rackets. But anyway, we came across a whole bunch of them. put new grips, new string, new everything. I just do everything with a synthetic gut, same tension, same everything. But anyway, I do a lot of that stuff. And I don't know. I'm not going to say that's going to make you rich and not going to make you a lot of money. But you do that enough times, people know about this stuff, and you will pick people up. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at, how I've developed my business. I will tell you this to close out. So I know I'm not the world's busiest stringer, not by any means whatsoever. Last year I did 1,852 rackets. The year before in COVID, I didn't really do hardly anything. I did just a little. I think I did like 980 something, 990 something. I didn't quite hit 1,000 during COVID. The year before COVID, I did right around 1,300. This year, I'm on track to probably hit about somewhere between 14 and maybe 1,600, 14, 15, 14, 16. The pro tournament, I'll pick up about 200. So I add that to what I have now. That'd be 1,450 plus. I'll probably be about 1,600 this year. So again, I'm going to retire on it, but it's nice little side money. So that's how much I'm doing. And so if you're one of those people that just absolutely cannot touch a racket unless you make $20 or $25 or something like that, and you're doing 100, 200 rackets a year, that's great. That's the way you do it. I do a lot of free stuff, but I consider that an investment where that will give me more profit in the future. So that's how I'm doing it. And I hope you got something out of this video. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I hope I didn't circle back on stuff too much. But that's how I've done it. And so everything I've got, I've got 2 Biardos. One of them's in a box right now. I've been trying to sell it, but I'm not really sure if I want to sell it. I know people think I'm desperate to sell it, but I'm really not. It's the L model. I'm going to get another one of the full models, but like I said, I'm not really desperate to sell the L because I can always stick it over at the university. That way, with gas at $5 a gallon, keep me from having to drive back and forth. It'll cost me more in gas to go pick them up, string it, and take it back than what I'm making on the racket. So I could just leave it up there and just knock them out while I'm up there. If they've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 rackets, I can just do them up there at the courts. And then when they have their summer camps in the summer, they just had a couple of camps. I usually get 2 or 3 rackets from that. But anyway, so those are some ideas that I have for you to try to increase your stringing business. So hope it works out. Hope you get something from it. If not, then you watch the video for nothing. But that's all I got.